large percentage of organizations that don't have a strategy at all. We've got pirates in the Red Sea. What happens when you put your head in the sand is you are far more likely as an organization to fail. So the advice that I'm going to give is look really, really hard at your business. I suggest focusing on what you can control internally. For every organization to be successful, they need to have the ability to get things done. So focus, focus, focus. My favorite chapter is right at the end, which is talking about the now, next, and beyond model.
Today we are tackling a critical issue for many small and medium-sized enterprises: the gap between strategy and successful execution. Hello everyone, this is Kripa Anand and welcome to the Canadian SME Small Business Podcast, where we equip you with the strategies and insights to lead your business through any challenge. Today we are tackling a critical issue for many small and medium-sized enterprises: the gap between strategy and successful execution. Now, recent trends highlight that while many SMBs have a clear vision, they often struggle to translate that vision into tangible results. So this discussion today will provide a practical playbook for leaders looking to bridge that gap and drive sustainable success, especially in uncertain times. Joining us today is Kevin Judge, founder and CEO of iNOBL and the author of the new book, The SMB Playbook: Lead with Clarity, Execute with Confidence, and Deliver Results in Uncertain Times. So this book was launched on May 20th of this year, and Kevin is an expert in helping senior leaders align their teams, develop high-impact leaders, and build the culture needed to achieve their strategic goals. So before further ado, let's welcome this very special guest. Kevin, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm fantastic. Thank you so much for having me.
It is our pleasure, and I'm very excited for this conversation today, Kevin. You argue that most SMBs lack strategy, right? When in true sense, they lack internal ability to execute, right? Let's start by understanding what are the real reasons why strategies often stall, within SMEs out there, and give them actionable advice. What should they do about it? How should they bridge that gap?
Sure. The first thing to ask is, does your business actually have a strategy? There's a large percentage of organizations that don't have a strategy at all. Or if they do, they have one that is too far forward and not really reacting to the times.
Right.
And when we look at what's happening today, I was thinking of answering your question by saying the problem with executing strategy is pirates. And so what I mean by that is, we've got pirates in the Red Sea that are disturbing supply chain issues. We've got climate that is reducing the amount of ships that can go through the Panama Canal. So that's impacting the supply chain as well. So we've got climate, we've got pirates, we've got politicians, we've got economic issues, tariffs, etc. All of these disruptions are causing lots of challenges for organizations.
Right.
And what's happening is that people are focusing too much on the day-to-day tactical operations and not thinking about what can they do to advance their strategy. There was a research that was put out by PricewaterhouseCoopers that said 45% of CEOs don't think that their organization is going to be successful or even around in 10 years from now.
Yes. I remember reading this in this book as well. Yes. I get the reference. Yeah.
And so what this means is that they need to transform the way that they are doing their business. They need to look at how are they creating value? How are they building it, delivering it, capturing that
Right.
value, which
Hmm.
means change in their organizations. And a lot of them aren't putting the focus on there that they need to today.
All right, so that is the biggest thing that you are missing out on by not even asking yourself if you have a strategy in the first place, right? That's a very important distinction. It's not always about having a better plan, but about having the capacity to bring that plan to life effectively. Now that we've explored the execution challenges, let's discuss how businesses can turn disruption into an opportunity by choosing the right approach during uncertain times. In today's rapidly changing business environment, disruption is inevitable, right? All these factors that you just mentioned, uncertainty seems to be the new normal. In your book, you outline three paths companies take during disruption, right? Either do nothing about it, make tweaks to it, or act boldly. Can you elaborate on these choices and how should an entrepreneur decide which one to choose and when? Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. You talked about disruption being the new normal.
Yeah.
So McKinsey actually just released some new research that shows while we understand disruptions to be normal,
Mm-hmm.
they've been around forever.
Right.
The frequency and the intensity of disruptions has increased significantly. So the new normal is more stuff getting in the way, harder to get through.
Right.
Right. So the advice that I'm going to give around those three actions is actually the same advice that I gave at the beginning of the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
That was a major disruption.
Of course, yeah.
And people had to make choices. And some, unfortunately, stuck their head in the sand, did nothing, and prayed and hoped that it would go away. And we found out that it was a massive disruption and an intense disruption to business.
Right.
And so what happens when you put your head in the sand or when you do nothing and hope that it goes away is you are far more likely as an organization to fail, right? Because it won't just go
away on its own.
Exactly. So the second step, which is one that more leaders are choosing, tweaking things, right? So they might look at their cash flow, they might look at focusing in on certain products or certain customers, but nothing major in terms of changes. And I call this one almost like riding the wave, right? So if you look at where they are today and where they want to be down the road,
right.
If you're riding the wave, you're pretty much staying stable over time. They have a far greater chance of surviving,
right?
But if that disruption hadn't happened in the first place, their growth curve would have had them better off.
Of course, yes.
So by just tweaking, you might just survive, but you're going to still be behind where you would have been.
Right.
Then the last one is act boldly. And of course, that's what I'm suggesting people do, is look really, really hard at your business. And again, where are you creating value? Where are you delivering value? And how are you capturing value? And does that need to change based on all of the elements in your business?
Right.
So focus in on that and look at creating a plan to execute on that. And that'll help make sure that you are bound to succeed and have a higher potential for growth.
Wow, love that answer. That's a very insightful framework for understanding how businesses react to change, right? It highlights the importance of a proactive and decisive approach. Hello there, SMB leaders. Are you looking to bridge the gap between your strategy and your results? Remember, effective execution and a proactive approach to disruption are key to thriving in today's business climate. Kevin's new book, The SMB Playbook, offers practical guidance. Now let's get back to our conversation and explore the strategic results framework. Now, Kevin, let's dive into how the strategic results framework helps leaders focus on what they can control during times of uncertainty, right? In times of volatility, leaders often feel overwhelmed by factors beyond their control. All the factors that you did mention in the first answer, the pirates, the tariffs, all those things, these are the external factors that are beyond our control, right? Can you walk us through the strategic results framework and explain why focusing on leaders can control talent, execution, and alignment that makes the biggest difference in times of volatility?
Yeah, great question. Because you're right. The pirates and
Yeah.
the what's
The tariffs,
happening,
yeah.
the tariffs and all of that, we can't control that.
Yeah.
And spending too much time thinking about it and too much time trying to mitigate those risks
Right.
can be detrimental to the success. So instead, I suggest focusing on what you can control internally. And for every organization to be successful, they need to be surrounded by a group of people that have the ability to get things done. They need to be really focused on what it is
Right.
that they're doing.
Right.
And they have to have momentum. And that momentum is achieving goals and saying, okay, great, we had some success. Let's move forward and
Right.
again and again and keep
Right.
moving forward. So you said the strategic results framework.
Yes.
So with that, if you imagine three circles, a Venn diagram where the three circles intersect, right in the center of that, where they all intersect, is results.
Right.
And results, whether you're a for-profit or a non-profit or even a government agency providing services,
Right.
there are some results that you want to have.
Right. That is why you're putting in that action in the first place, right?
Exactly.
To get something out of it. Yeah.
Exactly. So what I like to do is help organizations measure against those three key pieces you mentioned. So talent, execution, and alignment. So with talent, it's about understanding, do you have the capabilities within your organization today for today's needs, but also what do you need in the future?
Right.
And are you building those needs? And AI and the advancement of AI in organizations is really changing what organizations are going to need in the future.
Yeah.
So what are you doing to bridge that knowledge gap today? Because we can't just buy that talent in the future.
Right, of course.
So that's the talent. It's about the mindset of the organization and the culture. Are they achieving? Are they accountable? And do they believe in the organization?
Right.
So that's the talent side. And if you ignore talent, you end up with a bunch of people that can't advance your company.
Right.
The execution side is about systems and processes. It's about assigning resources, the right resources to the right work.
Yeah. Allocation, yeah.
Absolutely, that allocation. And also measures. So whether you're doing SMART goals, OKRs, KPIs, whatever acronym you want to use, what are your goals and are you working towards those? So that's the execution piece, right? And if you're not focused on execution, you end up with an organization that's stagnant.
Right.
The last piece is alignment. And this is where we're talking about leadership and clarity or communication and decision making in the organization. So what is the focus that needs to happen? And does everybody in the organization actually understand from the top all the way down to the bottom? Do they understand what they're doing? And is everyone on the same page? And it's amazing how often they are not on the same page when they think they are.
Right, because sometimes all their focus is about their individual tasks, not what the organization is doing as a whole, right?
Exactly.
That's a very empowering framework. It provides, a very clear focus on internal drivers that leaders can influence even amidst external uncertainty. All right, it's time for a quick break right here, but stay tuned. We'll be right back to dive into more.
Hey, you think you know UPS? Yeah, that's us. Everybody knows that. You know what you didn't know? This. Okay, try to keep up. Ocean, us. Ground, rail, air, so us. Guess who? Us. Customs cleared, borders cleared, done. Us. You still with me? Wait for it. Boom. Us. Intelligent, automated, fulfillment. Us. Yep. Healthcare too. Digital your thing? Yeah. Well, book it, ship it, track it. You feeling me yet? Yep. That's all us. That's all UPS.
Welcome back, listeners. Let's continue our discussion on the strategic results framework and how it can help leaders to take control in turbulent times. Very interesting thing you mentioned with AI coming into the place now. Do you think that the employees will have to start acquiring new skills, something that AI cannot do, or how do they, go through it?
I think they absolutely do need to look at
Right.
developing new skills, right?
Right.
So sure, you need to understand how to use AI.
Yes.
If you're a software engineer and you don't understand AI, then
Right.
you're probably in trouble.
Right.
Um,
And
but
the reason why I asked that is because how we are working and what tools we are working with, they have changed dramatically, right? So in that dramatic shift, what advice do you have for entrepreneurs they should keep in mind when, hiring talent for their companies?
yeah, so the easy answer is, well, people have to have AI skills, but
Yeah.
I think the smarter answer here is making sure that people, whether they're your current employees or people that you're hiring, have the ability to solve problems. So problem solving skills,
Yes.
critical thinking skills,
Yeah.
being able to communicate effectively with customers, stakeholders, internal groups,
Right.
and with each other,
Right.
right? So those are some pretty critical skills.
That AI cannot replace, right? These are
Absolutely.
personal to you. Yeah.
Absolutely, right? So there's a lot of fear that AI is going to take over people's jobs.
Right.
The hotel I was staying at had this amazing little robot vacuum cleaner going up and down the hallways.
Right.
So no more is there somebody in that hotel pushing a vacuum cleaner.
Right.
So what's happening to them? Are they reskilling? Are they working on something different that's providing greater value than just pushing a vacuum?
That is a great food for thought. Now, with that, Kevin, let's dive into some of the common reactions under pressure that, can undermine long-term success, even if they seem like quick fixes or quick solutions, right? So when faced with pressure, leaders may instinctively take actions that seem like quick fixes. What are some of the common but ultimately ineffective moves that leaders often make when under pressure? And why do these actions, such as, layoff or panic pricing, often fail to deliver the desired results that they truly need?
Yeah, and the layoffs or the cutting of budgets,
Yeah.
whether you're a small organization or a large organization, this tends to be one of the first things we look at.
Right.
I had 21 years in the corporate world and 10 years now of helping organizations look at how do they execute. And what I'm finding quite often happens is the CFO or the CEO will say, we're going to cut headcount, travel, and training. Well, the travel's an easier one now because we can do so much virtually.
Right.
But the headcount, the challenge is some organizations decide to just do blind cutting of staff. They say we have to do 10%,
Right.
or every director in the organization has to cut 10% of your workforce.
Right.
And they're not thinking about who is it that they're cutting, right? Is there a potential that some of these people could be reskilled for something that's going to provide greater value for the organization?
Right.
Are you accidentally cutting people that are working on projects that are critical for the success of the organization,
Right.
or tied to your most important customers? So blind cutting of headcount
Right.
is a big mistake without looking at who exactly do you need, and how can they help you now and in the future?
Right.
Because again, if you have to buy that talent back a year,
It's going to be
2
much
years,
more costly. Yeah.
much more costly,
Yes.
and they won't know as much about your business as the people that are currently there. Right?
That is a very smart advice. Yes.
Yeah. The other piece you mentioned was pricing.
Pricing, yes. The panic pricing.
The panic pricing, right? So it's the big one right now is, oh my gosh, tariffs.
Right.
So we're going to raise our prices. Now, I'm not a pricing expert, but what I've seen and heard about pricing, and I've experienced firsthand, is organizations that will raise the price of things, and those prices just keep creeping up and creeping up and creeping up. And as a consumer, I'm thinking, is that really because of tariffs, or are they just taking an opportunity
of making personal profits,
of increasing their profits?
Yeah.
And we could debate whether that's the right thing to do or not. But what happens when they do that, when there is no explanation, as a consumer, as a customer, I tell stories in my head about what's going on, right?
Of course, yes.
As human beings, we're
If you
amazing
don't give the
storytellers.
information to our brains, they make them up, right?
Exactly. And unfortunately, as master storytellers,
Yeah,
we specialize in fictional horror, right? So
it's true.
we come up with the worst case scenarios.
Right.
So this vendor is trying to mess with me and et cetera, when that might not be the case. So just a quick fix for that is to help your customers understand, also to help your salespeople understand, and to maintain that level of trust
Yes.
with those parties, is to perhaps create a surcharge. And you see this when you go to the airport or when you do a hotel.
Right.
You know, here's the flat fee and here's a surcharge based on tariffs or travel expenses or fuel costs or whatever it is. And it's easier for the salesperson to explain that increase to a customer.
If there's an added value proposition along with it, right? That this is the price that you're paying for this. That makes sense.
Yeah.
That's a very, important caution. So thank you so much, Kevin, for highlighting that. It's, very easy to react in ways that provide short-term reliefs, but can damage the long-term health of the organization. So just be mindful of that. We've talked about ineffective actions. Let's dig deeper into why execution often falls short in the first place, right? Many SMBs have a solid strategy in place, but often fail to execute that effectively. I remember reading this in the book that having a competitive edge is no longer a nice to have thing, right? It is the only way of moving forward. So can you go ahead and explain that? Because this is such a simple thing, but so effective, and it left a mark in my brain as well. So go ahead.
Yeah, well, if we go back to the strategic results framework with the 3 circles, talent, execution, and alignment, every organization is different, but the one that I find keeps popping up over and over again is alignment. And within there is leadership. And so I think whether you have a good strategy or not, it's often the challenge of leadership that gets in the way of executing that. Right. So there's another survey that was done that says 25% of employees believe that their leader is inspiring and fit for purpose. Right. So congratulations to those 25%. Right. On the flip side of that is 75% of leaders need work. They're not necessarily leading in a way that instills confidence, that gets people charged and energized about what it is they need to do. So with organizations that are getting flatter, so we're seeing the hierarchies shrinking and middle managers responsible for so much more. There's a huge weight on these managers. So it's a bit unfair to say, hey, this is because of you.
Yes, it's more like a sandwich situation, right? Where they have pressure from above and they have to train the employees below.
Exactly. So what my recommendation here is leaders at all levels need to start looking at not necessarily having all of the answers themselves, but being able to get those answers from their employees. It's the employees that are closest to the product, that are closest to the processes, closest to the customers. And so they've got insights on what needs to change, what's effective, what's not effective. And if you're looking for innovation, to be able to, again, go back to hey, we need to create value, deliver value, and capture value differently. Those employees are going to help you to be able to do that. So managers and leaders today, the focus really needs to be on how can they cultivate that environment of collaboration and communication and an openness for people to give their ideas and their feedback. So that's what I think needs to happen on that level.
Wow. As they say, employees are any company's biggest assets, right? So I completely agree with you. Now, let's come to this book that, I'm very excited about, and I'm sure all of our listeners are. Let's start by understanding, why did you require the need of writing this book in the first place? I understand that, you saw a gap in the market and then you decided that, no, this is what I need to do. What's the story behind it? How did you start writing this?
The story is somewhat funny. I have a CEO that I've been doing some coaching with, and he runs a studio somewhat like this studio. And he said to me, he said, Kevin, You are such an expert. Small and medium businesses really need your help
Right.
now that a certain president is in power. And so this was February.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, what I want you to do is to put together a segment of videos or a bunch of video segments.
Right.
And I want you to do that Thursday. So I had 48 hours.
Wow.
And so I did that. I showed up and we did it. And
You did deliver in 48 hours.
I did deliver in 48
Wow.
hours. I worked probably about 30 hours preparing for that.
That's very impressive.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I saw the opportunity and the need, and I figured, hey, let's jump on this. Let's act fast, which, by the way, is something a lot of leaders don't do that they should. They need to act faster. So anyway, I did the videos, and next thing you know, it's Friday, and I'm thinking about what that video series was. And I said, you know what? I think that's the beginnings of a book. And so I started working on that book.
That was the seed of that idea.
That's right.
Wow. So what is that? If I were to ask you, what's your favorite chapter or favorite part about this book? What would you say?
Wow. Favorite chapter. I like them all.
Yeah, of course. That is why coming from you, it'll,
Yes.
have a greater impact.
Yeah. So I think, there's two things I like about it. One about the book is I personally don't like reading books. So I tried to make it an easy to read
It
book.
is one because when I received this, 2 weeks back, I have lost my habit of reading. But with this book, it was such an easy glide that I didn't even realize when I was done with chapter 2. So I can vouch for it.
Oh, thank you very
Yeah.
much. Yes. Every chapter is anywhere from 1.5 to 4 minutes of
Yes.
reading.
Yes.
And
And it also mentions the time frame along with the word count before each chapter. So you know how much time you're going to invest in each one of them.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so, you finish a chapter and you're like, oh, this next chapter is only 3 minutes. I
Right.
could do that.
Exactly.
And the next thing you know, you've read the whole thing.
Yeah, so I think it's also about that psychology of quick wins, right? Which is also a chapter in this. I haven't come to that yet, but I will very soon. I'm loving this conversation, Kevin, and definitely we'll continue the collaboration. Before we let you go, if there's one piece of core advice that you have for our listeners today, something that you want them to take away from this entire discussion, what would it be and why?
I think the number one thing for people is to focus. Really get a sense of where is it that you need to be, where do you want to go for your business,
Right.
and reverse engineer that
Hmm.
and figure out what are the steps that need to happen in order to make that happen. And then my favorite chapter is right at the end, which is talking about the now, next, and beyond
Right.
model. So what are you going to do now within 30 days?
Yeah.
What's one simple step you can take to advance your strategy? And maybe that is to take some time to reflect on it or to talk to a coach, your mentor, whoever, to understand what your strategy is and where you're going,
Right.
but then also to meet with your leadership team and make sure you're aligned. So that's the easy now. Once you've got that, what's next? And what's beyond that? The next and beyond are going to change over time,
Right.
but at
But
least
they're going to
map
become
something.
running after you once you have the basics clear, at least, right?
Exactly. So focus, and get on that. And don't keep it all to yourself. Talk to somebody. Talk to me. I'll help you out.
Of course. All right, that was Kevin Judge, you guys, the author of the SMB Playbook. The description and the link will be in the box below. But Kevin, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us. It was an absolute pleasure having you on this podcast.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
All right, that was an insightful conversation with Kevin Judge, founder and CEO of iNOBL and the author of the SMB Playbook, on the critical elements of execution, navigating disruption, and leading with clarity in uncertain times. His book, which launched on May 20th, offers a practical guide for SMB leaders looking to turn strategy into sustainable results. To all of our listeners, thank you so much for tuning into the Canadian SME Small Business Podcast. We really appreciate your continued support. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast for more expert insights and resources that can help your business thrive. You can also visit our website, CanadianSME.ca. And lastly, a very special thank you to our podcast partners, RBC, UPS, A1 Global College, ADP, and Google for their ongoing commitment to empowering SMEs in Canada. So, until next time, keep innovating and striving for success, and we'll see you in the next episode. Kripa Anand signing off.